This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du noch?
If you've heard that sound from Babbel before, I bet you do. Babbel is the science-backed language learning app that actually works. With quick 10-minute lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts, Babbel gets you on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. With over 16 million subscriptions sold and a 20-day money-back guarantee, just start speaking another language with Babbel. Right now, up to 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Spotify podcast. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify podcast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion. I'm your host, Stephen Wallis, and today the Test Match special commentator and the show's cricketing expert, Roland Butcher, is back. He'll be reviewing England's one-off Test match against Zimbabwe and sharing his thoughts on the upcoming 5-Test series against India, including a prediction. We'll also touch on some of the latest stories from the world of cricket, and along the way, Roland will be answering a few questions sent in by listeners. Hello, Roland. Welcome back to the show.
Stephen, I'm back and certainly going to enjoy it. It's summer again, so glad to be on here again.
Well, thanks again for joining me after your appearance on Test Match Special on Sunday, England versus the West Indies.
Yeah, it was a very enjoyable time up in Cardiff. I haven't been to Cardiff for a long time, but what I can tell you is that that city is buzzing. I've never seen a weekend in a city quite like that. Things are happening up in Cardiff, and they're certainly enjoying themselves. But yeah, the Test Match Special commentary, I enjoyed working with the persons in the team, and it was a really good game as well. So all in all, it was an excellent weekend.
It was a long day.
Yeah, it was. Obviously, 50 overs is much longer than the normal championship game, which so it makes it a very long day. But at the end of the day, I think everybody went home, particularly the spectators, went home very happy, because some spectators feared that West Indies would not perform and the game would be over early. So they were pleasantly surprised and enjoyed the day.
Yes, after the first ODI, which West Indies lost by 238 runs, this match was a tight match. It could have easily been tighter.
Yeah, it was. I mean, listen, they lost that first game, as you said, by a long way. And this one, was a potential banana skin because, the pitch was a greenish pitch, as there are most of the pitches these days. They tend to leave some grass in it. England won the toss, had no hesitation, and asked the West Indies to bat. So potentially, it could have been a short day. But fortunately, with a bit of luck and then some good cricket, and then at the end, obviously, they had a chance of winning, because England got themselves in a bit of a mess, but finally got themselves out of it.
A few positives then from the West Indies.
Yeah, I think the most positive thing for the West Indies is the way that Casey Carty's coming on in terms of his batting. I mean, he's got back-to-back hundreds now. He got 100 with the first one. He got 100 now in this one. That was followed off. But previously he got 100 in Ireland. So he's got 300s in the last 4 innings, I think. So that's one positive. I think Brandon King showed semblance of the sort of player that he can be for the first time. Shea Hope, obviously, he's as not just captain, but a very good white ball player. So, he got another score. But I think probably Alzari Joseph bowling really was probably the best I've seen him bowl for a while, and very hostile. So there are some plus. Still a lot of work to be done, though. The team still possessed the ability to collapse, but there was some progress.
Joe Root 166. How high do you rate him now amongst England's great players of the past?
Well, I mean, he's got to be almost top of the tree if he's not top of the tree, because, phenomenal player, and still to continue churning out performances of that level is unbelievable. I mean, Sunday's innings was world class. I think only Joe Root on both sides could have played that innings. I don't think anyone else was capable of doing that. He just never flagged. He never panicked. Never looked as if he was worried about the situation. Was in total control, and it was really a very high class innings.
He just needs that Test match century in Australia.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he will. Australia obviously will target him because they'll realise that he is the main man. But the form and the way he's playing, I'm sure that he will. He really takes the team to a different level when he plays well. And, England could have been in some real trouble. When they were 5 down, things were not looking good. But, he was the constant, all the way through.
Let's move on to England and Zimbabwe, and then later look ahead to England and India. A 4-day test match which ended just before tea on day 3 at Trent Bridge. My first question actually is from John Gilding, and he said, do you think it was a worthwhile warm-up match for the season?
It certainly was for England, because it allowed their batters to get some much-needed practice. Middle practice is always better than net practice. Any cricketer will tell you that. You don't score runs in the nets, but if you can get them in the middle, and England did. Obviously, the first 3 players, 1, 2, 3, all got big hundreds. So that was a worthwhile exercise for sure. And then obviously the bowlers, particularly Bashir, picking up 9 wickets in the game. England going on to win the game by an innings. So it was a good exercise. It was a perfect exercise.
What are your thoughts on Zimbabwe's performance?
Well, as expected. I mean, I didn't really expect that Zimbabwe could come to England at short notice. I mean, they don't play many games, warm-up matches before test matches these days. They're one of the weaker sides already. So lots of disadvantages. I didn't expect that they would come in anywhere and really bother England's side. Even if England were playing at half power, I didn't feel that Zimbabwe would have an effect at all.
Were they affected by nerves on the first day?
Listen, I think they were outclassed, and they wouldn't realise and recognise that even on paper, there's a difference in class. So, if you go through the England side individually, and you look at their record 1 to 11, and then you go through the Zimbabwe side 1 to 11, I think Zimbabwe would realise that really, they're in a no contest, particularly in a country that the England players are accustomed to. They've been playing a few months now around the circuit, so they're used to the conditions. They're now coming from Zimbabwe into these conditions, so they would realise that they were outclassed, and all they would be really hoping for is that they could put in a fighting performance.
I think they did that, though, a fighting performance, especially Brian Bennett and Sean Williams.
Yeah, they did. I mean, obviously, Sean Williams is one of their better players, and obviously Brian Bennett getting that 100, and a splendid 100 it was as well. So those are, positives for them. Otherwise, it could have been a real, could have been total collapse. But yeah, I think, listen, they scored over, 200, nearly 250 in both innings. So that really for them is a bonus.
You were impressed though by Brian Bennett, 21-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, listen, any youngster who comes in at that age, against a good attack, and particularly the position the team was in as well, you've got to think that, there is some sort of future there once he continues to improve. So, yeah, very happy for him. And, the fact that a young player, because these days, a lot of these young players don't really stand up, but a young opener as well, which is not an easy job. So that argues well, for Zimbabwe cricket going forward.
And Sikandar Raza doing more travelling than you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, well, Raza is, as they say, the modern day globetrotter. And unfortunately, or fortunately, that's how international cricketers operate these days. One day they're in one country, another day they're in another. And, that's the future at the moment. I know Raza obviously would realize that, he hasn't got 10 years to do that. So, do it now. Why not?
Going back to the England bowling attack, what are your thoughts on the seamers and Bashir, who you've already mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, England are fortunate at the moment that they've got, when fit, a good group of fast bowlers with good pace. And, they're all, some are quite young and learning the game as well. But, the future looks good for them. I mean, if you think also that you still got Mark Wood and Joe Faracha to come back into that group, and probably Chris Wilkes as well. The seam bowling, once they stay fit, looks good.
What did you think then to Sam Cooke? Is it not fair to judge him on one test match?
No, you can't judge him on one test match. Obviously, he would have been nervous, the situation. Yeah, I mean, you can only judge him over a period of time. I mean, one test match, if you judge a player on one test match, then a lot of players would fail the test. So, hopefully he will get another chance at some time.
People were making a lot of his pace being under 80 miles an hour. Is that significant?
Well, listen, it can be significant, if you're playing totally on flat wickets. But, if you have got other bowlers who are much quicker, then to have a bowler who's 80 plus miles per hour, I don't think makes a difference once he's a wicket taker. At the end of the day, it's not about how fast you bowl. It's the question is, do you take wickets? Can you take wickets? And you'll only find out with him as he gets more opportunities.
And Shoaib Bashir, 9 wickets in the match, man of the match. Do we have to consider who he's playing against?
Well, listen, you can only get wickets or runs against who you're playing against. He's playing against Zimbabwe on this occasion. He's the number one spinner for England even before this test match. So obviously there's a lot of respect for him as the bowler. Don't forget, he's also very young in terms of international cricket. He's still really learning the game. He's a young man. He's done well. He's done pretty well to date, and really also on a pitch that wasn't spin friendly. So you've got to give him credit. It will do his confidence the world of good, and obviously that will be good for England as well, because if you've got a spin bowler who's confident, like say Nathan Lyon is with Australia, they know that they can always rely on somebody like Nathan Lyon in any conditions, whether it's spin friendly or otherwise. If Bashir can get that confidence, then it also, strengthens the bowling attack.
Everyone's saying he's more confident when he's playing for England with Ben Stokes as captain, as opposed to playing in the county championship.
Well, he doesn't play often in the county championship. That's being selected is the key. He gets selected for England regularly, so that's perhaps his forte. Yeah, listen, if you're playing in Test cricket, that's so different to playing in county cricket. You're now playing with the best of the best. So, he's in that company. I would expect that, his levels of, he'll raise his level at Test level. When you go back to county cricket, He's still a young guy. He maybe hasn't got the balance right just yet in terms of how he treats the county game. But, once you step into the Test arena, obviously, you've got to step up. And when you look around the dressing room and you see the sort of figures in that dressing room and those sort of players, it gives you a lift.
But you like to see England play a frontline spinner?
Yeah, I think a spinner is always important. There are times when people have gone into games with no spinner, but I feel a spinner is always, is worth his weight in gold. It doesn't always have to be, a spinning track. I cannot see a time, only through age, where Australia would leave Nathan Lyon out of a Test side. Any Test 11 that they pick. I think even on the greenest of pitches, they will still play Nathan Lyon because, he's a top-class spin bowler and has, he can bowl in any condition. So, yeah, I like the idea of, a spinner. It adds balance to the team and to the bowling attack.
Another person who adds balance is Ben Stokes, and it was good to see him bowling so well. Yeah,
listen, a fit Stokes, is obviously good for the team because, one thing he does is, he picks up wickets at regular intervals. So, if things are going badly and he can come on and pick a wicket up, that is great. The key really is to manage his workload. He's got to do that as well to ensure that, he's fit when he needs to bowl, not to have to rely on him to be, one of the frontline bowlers. The other guys should really take up that responsibility. He should be there that when they need a wicket, he comes on, or if they need to give someone a rest for 5 or 6 overs, or if they want to keep it tight, that's the sort of role that he should be playing. He shouldn't be having to play, a Mark Wood, Atkinson, that type of role. He shouldn't have to do that.
Wherever you are in the world, I'd love to hear from you. Send me your questions about England's upcoming 5-match series against India. And when Roland returns to the show in early August to review the series, he'll answer as many as he can. Now let's get back to the show and hear a question from one of our listeners. I've got a question for you from Tammy from Ealing Cricket Club, and she's asked me to ask you, do you think teams like Zimbabwe are getting enough matches against the top sides?
Well, the short answer to that is no. I think the likes of Zimbabwe, for them to improve, they've got to play against some of the stronger teams. Okay, they will get beaten, but it's a learning curve. I'm sure they would have learned heaps from this game against England here. If they were playing against Ireland, what would they learn? Themselves and Ireland will be in the same boat. So I think playing against the bigger nations is certainly good for teams, not just only Zimbabwe, but, I think teams like West Indies and those teams also need to play against the bigger nations, more often, to help their development.
So, in conclusion, a mark out of 10 for England?
Well, 8. I wouldn't say a 10 out of 10. Obviously, there's still areas they know that they need to work on, but they got the job done. That was the important thing. Get the job done. Do it effectively. Bowlers got wickets, batters got runs. They got the victory, got the points. So really, at the end of the day, I think they can be satisfied. They know that it's harder work to come. Obviously, you've got a series coming up this summer with India, and then you've got the Ashes as well. So the next 2 series are perhaps the 2 biggest, and they're back-to-back series. So, yeah, they should be happy. And obviously, if they can get the injured players, back and taken apart in those 2 series, then they could be in a pretty good space.
This episode is brought to you by SelectQuote. Life insurance can have a huge impact on our family's future, With SelectQuote, getting covered with the right policy for you is simple and affordable. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents will tailor your experience to find a life insurance policy for your needs in as little as 15 minutes. And SelectQuote partners with carriers that provide policies for many conditions. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Go to selectquote.com/SpotifyPod today to get started.
The NBA playoffs are here, and I'm getting my best in on FanDuel. Talk to me, Chuck GPT. What do you know?
All sorts of interesting stuff, even Charles Barkley's greatest fear.
Hey, nobody needs to know that.
New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
21 plus and present in Virginia. Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
American Military University offers special rates to military families. Get an education that moves with you for just $250 per credit hour. Learn more at amu.apus.edu/military.
Yeah, let's move on to the India 5-test series, which begins on Friday the 20th of June. And my first question, I'll get it in early, from Kenny Hutchinson, who now lives out in Lanzarote. And he's asked me what everyone's asking, Bethel or Pope for the first test?
Why not both? That's the question. Why not both? Listen, I think Bethel has done well enough to stay in the side, but I believe obviously they'll play Pope. I mean, Pope has just got another big 100. They'll have to start. They'll have to start with Pope, really, unless I guess there's an injury. It's a nice position to be in, actually. How often is England in a position where, they've got two players performing well, and you which one do I go with? I think we'll start with Pope. He's the last few test matches. I mean, he's got runs as well, so he did what he had to do, get a big 100. I mean, what else can he do? If he got naught, then people would have said, well, he hasn't done anything, but he got a big 100.
But Jacob Bethel, is he a generational talent?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, he was identified from a very young age. I know Bethel, Jacob for years now. He was one of our young players in the development pathway, and I was chair of that pathway, the Everton Week Centre of Excellence. The Everton Week Centre of Excellence is the Barbados national pathway from 13, 15, 17, 19s females to the seniors. So I was a chair of that. So I've seen him come through. When he was 12, 13, he was playing and captain in the Barbados under 15 team at regional level and scoring hundreds. So everybody knew that, there was a prodigious talent there. So I didn't believe that at any time that he would not be the player he is now. It's taken him a little while to get to that level for a couple of reasons. Because Jacob he's an opening batsman by nature. That's what he's always done, open the batting. In England, at Warwickshire, they've used him in different positions. But I think the other thing that's happened to Jacob is that he was always quite a small fella coming through. But obviously, joining Warwickshire, etc., he's worked hard on his physical appearance, and he's got bigger and he's got stronger. And for about a year or so, by getting bigger and stronger, he's felt that he's had to muscle the ball like the others. So I think that affected him for about a year. I think he's settled back now into the fact that, no, I don't have to do that. I can be technical and play the way that I've always played. So I think you're starting now to see the talent that is there. That even though he's bigger and stronger, he doesn't have to play that way. He, go back to how he's played before, which was he was an accumulator of runs, good technique. So I expect that he will get better and better.
So you think his day in the England Test side is coming soon?
Oh yeah. I think he would be a mainstay. No, he won't just be a occasional player. I think he will be very much a long-term solution to a lot of the problems in the team. He has got that sort of ability.
Keeping your selector's hat on, do you expect other changes for England in the first test?
Well, a lot will have to do with fitness of players. What's happening with Mark Wood, Joe Archer? I think those are questions really that the England medical people can answer. It's great, obviously, if all of those guys are fit, because then it really gives you an option as to the combinations that you play test by test. If you've got all those guys, you've got Cass, you've got Tong, you've got Potts. You've got a good array of bowlers to choose from. So if they can all be fit, the selectors have got a bit of a headache. But as well as having a headache, really, they've got good options, because then they can play different players at different venues. Where they're suited for those venues, then they can play those players. So, it's a good space for England to be in right now. I think perhaps the bowling, once fit, they're probably in a better position than the batters, because you've got the 5-6 batters. You haven't got another 4 or so at that level that can be really pushing. So that the bowling is going to be the hardest team to pick.
There's also Chris Wokes hopefully coming back.
Yeah, I mean, once fit, you're playing in the UK, so he always comes into the reckoning in the UK. And don't forget, I mean, based on his T20 debut, Jimmy Anderson might decide it's time to come back.
He's got a lot to do to sort Lancashire out, I think, Jimmy Anderson.
Well, it may be a bridge too far for him. They seem to be in real trouble. But he's obviously still enjoying his cricket, and he will obviously help them, but they're under severe pressure.
Let's take a look at India. How much of a miss will Virat Kohli be? This is a question from David Fountain.
I think it'll be a huge miss, not purely because of his batting ability, but I think his overall impact and influence on India, which he has done for a very long time. When you don't have that sort of individual in the dressing room, even if he's not scoring runs, will be sorely missed. And Kohli has been, the mainstay of India for a long, long time. So it'd be sad to see him go. And then obviously, your captain go at the same time as well. But it also opens up opportunities for, the young guns who have been waiting to get into the side. But yeah, he will be missed for sure.
They've also now got a young captain, Shubman Gill, at 25.
Yeah, this is going to be a real baptism of fire for him as a young captain. He obviously is one of the young and better batters as well. So that's going to be huge pressure on him to deliver both with bat and captaincy. It's going to be a tough series for him for sure. And how he handles it, obviously we'll have to wait and see. But it's not the best series for him to start with, really. Not particularly playing in England as well.
Were you surprised that Jasprit Bumrah didn't get the nod?
Not at all. I think someone like Jasprit Bumrah, who is your main bowler, And with his injury worries of late as well, I think he doesn't need any extra pressure. I think Bumrah should be left alone to do what he does best, which is to bowl and bowl well. I don't subscribe to just having him captain. You know, he's best suited for India really in the position that he's in now as an out-and-out bowler. I'm not saying that he couldn't do the job, but what I'd say is that best for him and best for the team would be what he's doing right now is just be a player.
They're going to miss Mohammed Shami, though.
Yeah, in English conditions, obviously Shami, you know, in these conditions is a fine bowler. That's you know, that is a big miss. You know, he, along with Bumrah, you know, if you had those two bowling in English conditions, if you were picking a team and those two were available, an Indian team, you know, you would want those two in the side. But obviously, you know, he's missing, but the others obviously have got to step up. You know, India are going to be very much in transition now. The question is going to be can they maintain the high standards that they have maintained for a long time? It will be severely tested. And, you know, it provides also a good opportunity really for England to get one over.
You are listening to the Paddock and the Pavilion with Stephen Wallis. Don't forget, you can find this show along with our archive of over 300 episodes on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or on our YouTube channel. Let's move on to another big match. Before I get your prediction on that series, the World Test Championship final at Lord's, which starts on the 11th of June between South Africa and Australia. What are your thoughts on that match?
I think it's a good matchup. South Africa, the last 18 months have been really good at international cricket. Obviously not playing a great deal of late, so they may be a little bit rusty when the test starts. Australia, on the other hand, is Australia. You know, wherever they go, they adapt very quickly. You know, they're a good side. There's no question about that. This is also a warm-up for the next tour, which is West Indies. They go literally straight from here to West Indies for a 2-test series. So, you know, this will be a good opportunity really for them to get some much-needed practice and then head off to try and win that series there and get some more ranking points. So, yeah, I mean, I expect that Australia would win this game against South Africa. South Africa will put up a good fight, but I don't feel that they're strong enough at this point to really beat Australia.
Are South Africa reliant on their opening attack really with Rabada and Marco Jansen?
Yes, but at the same time, you know, I think, you know, their batting has done pretty well of late. You know, they've got their young players have come in and done well. So the batting is, for me, is a big part of their team. I think it's probably the strength of the team that is the batting really. So, you know, that is a plus for them. Obviously, Rabada is still, you know, a very high class bowler. The missing of Nofke and I think Coetzee would have made them a much more important attack. But yeah, they'll put up a good show. But as I said, I think Australia will be just too strong.
One question on the World Test Championship. It's actually from an Aussie who, actually a friend of mine, Nathan Gage, who played minor county or national county cricket for Wales. Should the final always be in England?
I would say no, it shouldn't. But maybe the way the international calendar works, that perhaps when it comes around, when everybody's available, is probably during the English summer. I guess that's probably one of the reasons why it's in England. I guess the scheduling of the international calendar that might dictate where the final is played.
Changing countries or teams, the West Indies have a new Test match captain in Roston Chase. Is he the right man for the job?
Well, I mean, only time will tell. I mean, I don't think there were a lot of options available. I think also, the selection of Ruston Chase has raised a lot of eyebrows. And I can understand why eyebrows are based, because Ruston Chase hasn't played for West Indies for 2-3 years. Not because he didn't want to, because he wasn't selected. So the fact that he was selected as captain, having not been in the team, couldn't get into the team, and now he's captain, has raised a lot of eyebrows. And so it should, because personally, I felt that Joshua De Silva should have got the job, because you have invested in Joshua De Silva for the last 3 years as West Indies senior men's vice captain. So he's done that for those 3 years. Even during the period when I was a selector, he was the vice captain of the senior team. In that period, he was captain of the A team. So he's done several tours as the A team captain. So you've invested heavily in him. So basically, you were preparing him for the job. If you're going to have a vice captain for that period, he shouldn't just be there to say he's vice captain. You're preparing him for a position. Now, he was dropped for 2 test matches in Pakistan last year, and Tevin Imlat played. But if he's dropped for 2 games, Ruston Chase hasn't played for 3 years, or 2-3 years. So it seemed rather odd that he was not made the captain. And on top of that, I would have made him captain, and I would have let him play these 2 matches as a batter, not the wicketkeeper. Imlat can keep wicket, to take some of the burden off De Silva, so he could have captained the side. He captained Trinidad this year. They won the tournament. He was one of the highest run scorers in the 4-day championship. So his form is good. He scored about 400s. So really everything was lined up for him. He's got form. His team's winning. He's got captaincy experience. He's got West Indies vice captaincy experience. He has got a team captaincy vice experience. So he for me was the candidate. If he wasn't even captain, he can't even be vice captain. I was a bit surprised by how that turned out. Happy for Ruston Chase and Warwick Khan, but very surprised.
Ruston Chase has got a tough ask in his first series as captain.
Well, he's got a huge ask. I mean, he's playing against the best team in the world. He hasn't played international cricket for 2-3 years. He's going to play, which means that which is going to create problems within the selection of the side, because Warwick Khan is vice captain, so he's the spinner. What happens to Morty? You can't play 2 spinners in Morty and Warwick Khan and Chase as a third spinner. Would you play Chase as an out-and-out batter? So, they've created some problems for themselves with the selection of captain and vice captain, because Morty has been, probably apart from the last series against Pakistan, Morty before that was the number 1 spinner. Obviously Warwick Khan had a very good, probably his best series in Pakistan as an international bowler, but now he's vice captain. So you're going to leave the vice captain out of the team, I doubt it. So they've got problems in selection. As I said, that could have been solved. where as I said, where De Silva may not even get into the team, which would be a shame because he scored more runs than any of those batters in the side this year.
It'll be interesting then to see how that goes. Coming back to you briefly, Roland, how's your book tour going in the UK? You had your launch on the 14th of May.
Yeah, it's going well. The 14th of May. Then we had obviously a book signing at Lord's during the Middlesex Players' Day. Since then, I've been down to Bristol, down at the Oval, down at the Ulita Bowl, obviously down in Hampshire, and obviously quite a few more coming up during the summer. So far, so good. Lots of mileage, lots of travels, and obviously, you were there at Lord's, so things are going well.
Not quite as much travel as Sikander.
Yeah, well, but he travels first class.
You're probably driving.
I've done a lot of that. Well, I took the train to Cardiff. As they say, let the train take the strain, and that's what I did going to Cardiff, and it was very enjoyable.
But we're going to do a comprehensive podcast about breaking barriers from Barbados to England and back, and Dr. Sasha Sutherland is also going to feature in that podcast later this month. We've now got to come to your prediction. England versus India, 5 tests. It's a defining year for McCullum and Ben Stokes. What's your prediction?
As I said, this series, I hope one that the weather is pretty good so that we can, get some good cricket. I think barring bad weather, I think there will be results in all of them. I suspect at the end of it, I feel that England will win the series 3-2. England probably win the first 2, India come back, and then England have to win the last one. But I feel that there will be results in all of the games.
Oh, Ben Stokes will be pleased with that because he doesn't do draws, does he?
Well, I think the way they play the games these days, that I think 4 days is usually enough. So there'll always be results. Only weather can stop that. And
for once, we don't need to mention that where Liverpool are in the league because it's all finished now. So,
my wife keeps reminding me. Yes, so it can be a little bit annoying to hear these Liverpool fans, but let them have it. Let them celebrate.
Well, thank you again for joining us on the Paddock and the Pavilion. And as I said earlier, we'll be back later this month to talk about breaking barriers from Barbados to England and back.
Yes, Stephen, as usual, always a great pleasure chatting to you. Let's look forward to some good cricket the rest of this summer. And as it stands right now, the schedule will ensure that there's good cricket. Obviously, there's currently a England series going on with West Indies. You've got the World Test Championship. You've got 5 tests against India, really. It's a summer of high-level cricket. And then at the end of it, we've all got to look forward to the Ashes, which we will all enjoy, and you will enjoy more than most.
Yes, thank you very much. And I'll speak to you again later this month.
Pleasure.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hey y'all, life's journey is filled with change, growth, and exciting new chapters. Whether you're welcoming a new family member, stepping into a new city, or chasing after your biggest dreams, you need a ride that's built with more space for the grand challenges ahead. The Toyota Grand Highlander is made for those who embrace every twist and turn. With advanced safety features, innovative tech, and a bold, sophisticated design, it's the SUV that adapts with you with room to spare. This spacious beauty seats up to 8, gives you up to 97.5 cubic feet of cargo space, and has a diverse engine lineup, available in gas or hybrid options, including the powerful 362 horsepower Hybrid Max. Plus, available all-wheel drive means you'll have confidence no matter where life takes you. Ready to take on your dreams? The Grand Highlander is more than a vehicle. It's your partner in embracing all life throws at you. From daily routines to unexpected adventures, it's up for every grand challenge. Learn more at toyota.com/Grand Highlander. Toyota, let's go places.